keeping everyone in line and organized. It's just a couple minutes after 5:30. I believe all the board members who were planning to be in attendance are here. So I'd like to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to give a nod to my background assistant who's making sure that we are live on the YouTube channel. I'm going to pause.
You're good.
Excellent. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read a statement that if you've been with us for a couple of months, you've probably heard several times before, but bear with me. This is just the public statement to make sure we're all on the same page as far as the meeting for tonight. So with that, welcome to the January 11th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. My name is Penny Holler. I'll be facilitating the Zoom portion of this meeting. I'm joined here by Director Derek Rogers and additional Parks and Rec staff via Zoom. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found in your lower left-hand side of the Zoom menu. This section is also where you can turn your camera on and off. For purposes of this meeting, please keep your video on. Again, as that makes sense, some staff and some members of the public will be joining us. So that's a preference and not a requirement. For the general public comment, Chair Bart Littlejohn will call you by name to speak. Each participant has 3 minutes for public comment. After public comment is over, you're welcome to stay on the call for the remainder of the meeting. For comment on agenda items, Chair Littlejohn will call you by name to speak. Each participant will have 3 minutes, and the board members will then continue their discussion. Also, as a reminder, please state your name and title each time that you speak for the record. And if a vote is necessary, the chair will capture votes from each advisory board member separately by roll call vote. With that, I would like to turn the meeting over to Chair Bart Littlejohn.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to the meeting today. Also, I would just like to know, like following what Penny said regarding the general agenda, the public comment. What we're gonna do is a little bit different than normal, just because one of our board members is a little bit pressed on time, and he's one of our newer board members, Brendan. So we want to make sure that he's involved in the meeting before, it kind of goes towards the later parts. In regards to public comment, if possible, I would like us to go ahead and refrain on any sort of response to anybody giving public comment. If you're a board member, if you could go ahead and do that till the agenda item E, concerns of the board or other member items of interest, that would be great. Otherwise, if it's like a staff response, I think just given we're a little bit pressed on time to go ahead and get this in, that we could go ahead and table that till afterwards, and they can go ahead and respond directly to the person or persons making comments. So with that, I will go ahead and get us started. Welcome to our new board members. I believe it's Amber Nickel and Brendan. And with that, I think what we'll do is we'll just have a little, if both of you are on, if you can briefly introduce yourself to the rest of us, that would be great.
Yeah, I can go first. My name is Brendan Downey. I am currently on staff with a campus ministry called The Greatness. I work on the KU campus. I have some background experience working with KU intramural sports and working at the KU Rec Center for 4 years when I was there. And so that's what, I guess, turned me on to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Someone pointed out to me that I could apply, and that was exciting to me. So yeah, and I'm married and 24 years old. So I graduated from KU in 2019. So I think that's probably all you need to know.
All right. Awesome, man. Thank you for joining us, Brendan. We appreciate it. And I know that a lot of you probably know Amber already, but for those who don't, Amber, can you go ahead and let us know a little bit about you?
Sure.
My name's Amber Nickel, and I have lived in Lawrence since I graduated high school in Wichita. I moved up here for KU in 1994 and stayed put. I really love this community. I own a dog grooming business and retail place out on the west side of town called Posh Wash, and my 12-year-old son is the #1 fan of Sports Pavilion Lawrence, and I'm probably #2. So he has been missing being able to go out there and play basketball. Yeah, I can't think of anything else I should say, but I'm glad to be here. I've wanted to be on the Parks and Rec board for a long, long time, so I'm excited.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. And I'm sorry, everybody, I kind of jumped it a little bit, but I thought it'd be great to go ahead and meet these guys a little bit beforehand. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. If all of you had a opportunity to go ahead and review the minutes from the last meeting, if not, if you can go ahead and take the opportunity to do so, that would be great.
They have to look at it from the people who believe in these conspiracy theories. If President Trump is to get off, there's no accountability.
Jackie Becker, I move to approve the minutes.
This is Val Renault. I have one typo to mention.
Okay.
Lynn Gimple, who talked about the dog park, her name is spelled 2 different ways. I'm not sure which is the correct one, her last name. Sorry, Jackie.
No, thank you for letting us know.
Proofreader here.
Good catch.
Penny, would we happen to know the correct spelling of her name right away?
Yeah, let's see if I can find it. I have emails from her. Gimpel.
Penny Heller, Management Analyst. So I think you heard Director Rogers say that the correct spelling is Gimple. Sorry, PEL. So we can just note for the record that the correct spelling, it is correct in 3 places and incorrect in 1. So we'll make a note of that.
Okay.
With that done, this is Carolyn Hull, board member. I would go ahead and second the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Oh, Penny, would that be a second to approve the amended minutes, or do we have to say that if it's just a note?
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that if we have to say it's amended, but with that adjustment. So the notes will be adjusted to reflect the correct spelling of Lynn Gimple's name.
Okay.
It wouldn't be amended because you haven't approved them yet.
Okay. All right. So the Maryland has a second to approve the adjustment of the minutes. Any questions or any opposed? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. All right. And there were no opposed. Okay, I think the minutes are approved. Cool. Moving on, let's see, it's public comment, and just my brief introduction before. Like I said, we're just going to do it a little bit different because Brendan is on a little bit of a time crunch here. So Penny, I believe we had 2 people available for public comment.
We did. Penny Holler Management Analyst. I only see one currently in the meeting. I see Chris Tilden.
Okay.
If Chris would like to let us know if he will be doing general public comment or speaking to a specific agenda item, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I had comments specific to the agenda item related to the capital improvement plan.
Related to, what was that, Chris? I didn't
The
quite.
capital improvement plan.
Okay. All right. So would you just like to go ahead and wait until we go ahead and address that in the agenda then?
Yep, I will do that, Bart. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks. I appreciate that. All righty. All right. To go ahead and move us on, since we've already done a brief introduction, I would, Penny, how did you want to handle the, should we just continue the introductions all the way around, or do you just want to dive into the chair elections?
I would say that is certainly up to the board. However, members of the advisory board would like to do that. If you think it'd be helpful to do an agenda or do a introduction of all the advisory board members, you can certainly do so. If you think it would be helpful to jump into nominations, you can do that as well.
Okay. Let's go ahead and keep it brief, but I think it would be great for Amber and Brendan to go ahead and get to know the rest of us. I'll go ahead and get us started. My name is Bart Littlejohn. I'm the chair of the advisory board. I came to this board from the Pinckney Neighborhood Association, where I'm president, and I've got a kid, and we all love to attend the great city parks. So, Jackie, how about if we just say the next person? So, Jackie, I'll shoot it over to you.
Hi, I'm Jackie Becker, and I'm the vice chair of Parks and Rec. And I, like Amber, came here for college and never left. And I love to play kickball and go swimming and ride my bike. So those all involve Parks and Rec, and that's why I love being on the board. And I'll just go around. My next one is Val.
Okay, hi, I'm Val Renault. This is my third year on the board. Love Parks and Rec. I have grown children who did soccer and this and that, and I play volleyball at East Lawrence Rec Center when we play volleyball, which I hope will be sometime next summer or fall. And welcome you both. Let's see, Pat.
Hi, I'm Brendan. Nice to meet you both. I'm Pat Phillips. I've been here as many years as Val, 3 years. I worked in the VA system for 28 years, retired there. I'm now currently a therapist part-time at DECA. My background is in mental health. My undergrad was recreation therapy, and I, like the other people that have spoke, my Prozac is moving. I love to do triathlons, haven't been able to do them for a little while, but I still love the training piece. And I take advantage of all that Lawrence Parks and Recreation offer, from the swimming pool to the trails to the bike loop. And so it's a passion of mine. So it's a privilege to be a part of this committee. So welcome. And I will pass this on to John Nalbanian.
Hi, I'm John Blazik. I'm a transplant here. I didn't come to school here. I moved here after I retired from education, being a principal in the Wichita area for 33 years and a coach and athletic director, and been a college basketball official for 33 years. And now I work for the NC2A with the college basketball national tournaments. Been here for 8 years. Absolutely love Lawrence. Extremely impressed with the Parks and Rec and everything they do. I use all their facilities, and like Pat, I feel very honored being on this committee.
Hey, John, could you pass it to John Nalbandian?
Sure. John? Oh, is that who I was, did I overstep that, Bart?
It's all right. It's all right.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, guys. John Nalbandian. I'm a retired faculty member, School of Public Affairs and Administration, University of Kansas, former mayor and commissioner here in Lawrence Kansas, been president of the Domestic Violence Board, Library Board, presently on Watkins Museum Board and this board. So quite involved. So thank you. Pass it on to Val. No, already. Who's next? Oh, Marilyn.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Hull. I've also been on the board about 3 years. My background is in nonprofit management. I'm currently mostly retired from being a nonprofit consultant. I have 2 of my children and 4 of my grandchildren living in Lawrence. We're all active in using all the facilities. So very interested in all parts of the Parks and Rec program. My personal passion is trails. And Brendan and Amber, you just lowered the average age of the advisory board members. So I'd like to thank you for that.
Yeah, I've been knocked out of well, I'm not sure actually. I know I was in the lower percentile, but now I'm like in middle of the road, so that's nice. Staff, would you mind go ahead and introducing yourself as well?
Yeah. I am Derek Rogers, rep for Lawrence Parks Recreation. I think Pat Phillips and I are similar in different ways that we had backgrounds in federal civil service, and mine was also the military. I'm a Lawrence resident, grew up here, and have 2 kids. One graduated from KU as an engineer in aerospace. Another one is starting her senior year up at KU in engineering.
Lee, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. I've lived here all my life. I haven't hardly left. I grew up on the playgrounds. I played in the leagues with Parks and Recreation. I attended Central Junior High. I attended Lawrence High School. I attended University of Kansas. I got my degree in education, master's degree in sports administration. I've coached something probably for 40 years. That's old. From CYO basketball to the baseball at the University of Kansas, Lawrence High basketball, Free State softball. Tough to get rid of me. I've enjoyed the run. Parks and Recreation is, I mean, to have a job in Parks and Recreation is, I've been pretty lucky.
Mark, would you like to go?
I'm next. I'm Mark Hecker. I'm Assistant Director of Parks and Rec. So I oversee the parks, trails, facilities end of thing. Lee oversees the recreation and operations of the facilities. I've worked in Parks and Recreation almost 40 years now, with Lawrence Parks and Rec for 22. So I've been around a little while. I do youth coaching. I do club volleyball. Been doing that for 19 years. I've also coached softball. I've coached just about every sport there is for youth. Still do a lot of golf. I do a lot of things on Parks and Recreation activities. So I'm continually at the sports pavilion with volleyball and that sort of stuff. So that's me.
Liz?
Hi, I'm Liz Ramirez. I have been with Parks and Rec. Actually, on Friday will be my 1-year anniversary. I do the administrative duties around here, and so far I've enjoyed it. I really haven't been able to see much since COVID started right when it hit, but overall I'm super excited, and I've been grateful to be a part of the advisory board to see everything that goes on, all the background.
Roger?
Hello, I'm just kind of here. I'm a marketing supervisor. Been with the department for almost 19 years. I do the marketing, the activity guide website, the media relations for the department.
And I think I'm the last one of staff. I'm Penny Holler. I'm the management analyst here in Parks and Rec. I'm also your advisory board liaison. I have a background working nonprofit, working for a governor, working for a US senator. So certainly been at various levels of local government and nonprofit work. And mostly just am excited to get to see this group once a month.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And as said before, welcome Brendan and Amber. All right, Penny, let's get to the nomination for new chair and vice chair for 2021. How exactly are we going to proceed with this?
Penny Heller, management analyst. I have just two quick items to bring up before you proceed with your discussion. The first is it seems to make sense to have the previous year's chair continue to facilitate the meeting. That's what we did last year. So if that works for the board, we'll continue that process, which means for purposes of this meeting, Bart will continue to facilitate, and then the chair and vice chair will begin next meeting. So if that works for everyone, we can continue that as a practice. Also, just a reminder, I did have the orientation with the two new advisory board members and kind of brought them in on the responsibilities of the chair and vice chair. So hopefully everyone understands that that is who will speak on your behalf if there's a need at a city commission meeting after a vote from the board. They facilitate meetings in the absence of the chair. The vice chair will step in and assist with that. They help with agenda creation. Because they're listed as the chair and vice chair, they might receive even more community feedback and emails than the rest of the advisory board members. So that's really just things for your consideration. This is about who the board wants to select from all of the board members. There's no bylaws governing how that selection is made. So I would open it up for the board's discussion to determine nominations. My only request is that there is a formal vote for chair and vice chair. That's really what we're trying to accomplish here.
All right. That being said, I would open it up for nominations. Let's go ahead and do the chair position first. Nominations for chair. Which, by the way, I will let it be known, if nobody else wants to step up, I am more than welcome to do it. I'll do it again for another year. So,
Bart,
don't let that prejudice anybody from going ahead and nominating themselves or anyone else.
Bart, this is John Blazik, board member. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Bart Littlejohn to stay in this position. I think you've done an outstanding job. You have a great feel of the community and people.
Thank you, John. Are there any other nominations for chair? And as I said before, I wouldn't want to crowd anyone out that wants to go ahead and step up and do it. So.
This is Marilyn Hull, board member. I'd like to nominate Jackie Becker. She's willing to serve.
And Marilyn, was that Jackie Becker for chair?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I would like to say that I'd like to see if Bart would like to continue to be the chair, and maybe that would work. I think with my world at the moment, with my career, because I didn't really say what I do in this, I'd like to maybe wait another year or so maybe to be the chair. And so I would like to defer my vote for Bart. Thank you, Marilyn. I very much appreciate that.
Are there any other persons that we want to nominate for chair? All right, hearing as there are none, and it sounds like Jackie has deferred, I guess I'm the lone man on the totem pole. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for all your support. I really do appreciate it. And I'll try my best to not break anything. So.
Penny Holler, Management Analyst, could we get a formal roll call vote on that?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that, Penny. All those in favor of, I guess, Bart Littlejohn being chair for the, was it 2021 year? And is it a voice vote or is it hands or what?
Just to keep it simplified, the way we're capturing meeting notes, it would help me to have you call on each member of the board.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, okay. Jackie Becker? Aye or nay?
Oh,
Okay.
yay for Bart Littlejohn.
Okay. Val Renault?
Yay for Bart.
Amber Nickel?
Whoops. Yay for Bart.
Okay. All right. John Blazick?
Yay for Bart.
Pat Phillips?
Yay for Bart.
Marilyn Hull?
Yay for Bart.
John Nalbandian?
Yay for Bart.
Brendan Downey?
Yay for Bart.
I think that is everyone. All right. And I didn't hear anybody. I guess we'll go ahead and try the vice president role as well.
Management Analyst, I assume the chair is voting for himself.
Yes, yes, Bart is voting for himself. Although if I wasn't, I think I would win by majority. So.
Thank you.
But now I would go ahead and open up nominations for the vice chair role. Anyone would like to be nominated or nominate somebody else? I would nominate Jackie Becker if she would do it. I think we worked very well together, and honestly, I think she would make a great chair. But if she's not ready this year, I think she'll be more than ready next year.
Jackie Becker, I would be A-okay to accept the vice chair nomination or suggestion, I guess, before we vote.
Is there anyone else that would like to nominate anyone or self-nominate themselves? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone. All right, we'll go ahead and put that to a roll call vote as well. I'll go ahead and start with myself, and it's the same as before. For Jackie Becker for vice chair, I would vote yay. Let's see. Let's start with Amber Nickel.
I too vote yay for Jackie Becker.
Val Renault.
Yes, I vote yes for Jackie, and I thank both of you for being willing to serve again.
Thank you. John Blazick.
Yay for Jackie Becker.
All right. Pat Phillips.
Yay for Jackie, and thank you both.
Marilyn Hull.
Yay for Jackie.
John Nalbandian.
Yay for Jackie, and thank you both.
Brendan Downey.
Yay for Jackie.
All right. And Jackie Becker.
Yay for Jackie. That's just a weird thing to say.
I know, right? It is. It is totally strange, but you know, we have to. So okay. I don't think I left out anybody. I hope I didn't. And thank you guys for all of your support. And yeah, we'll try to do the best we can. So moving on. Item number 3 is the review of the capital improvement plan for 2022. And just I had a little bit of a preface for this. We were actually able to review this plan because a board member actually made a a suggestion for it, which I think was a great suggestion. And I just wanted to say that in that suggestion, if I want to promote all of us to ask all the questions possible of staff or related to Parks and Rec, it's incumbent on staff to let us know where those guardrails are. So I appreciate, that, we're worried about overreach and anything of that sort, but I just want to make sure that we know that we have the freedom to go ahead and do that. And I want us to go ahead, try to make this, this board as inclusive as possible and as open as possible. So I just want to go ahead and let everybody know that. But Penny, if you can go ahead and get us started on that.
Absolutely. I will be sharing my screen. Penny Hollander, analyst. Give me 1 second. Okay. Is everyone able to see the PowerPoint on the screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So again, this is just, this will look familiar to those of you who were here in January last year. I think it's really helpful to give just kind of a brief overview of what a capital improvement plan is, and what its purpose is, and what that means to discussing additions to it or adjustments. So with that, and again, this is also for, got to keep in mind, there are members of the public who are also participating and watching this. So in some ways, this is also a refresher, likely for board members, but also helps put our discussion into context for those who may be less familiar with what we already know. So what's the CIP? The CIP is meant to be the items on behalf of the city. It goes a calendar year, January 1st, December 31st. This we'll be looking at, the draft will be for 2022. It's for capital items. Think large investments, think $100,000 or more, expected to last 10 years or more. The way the city of Lawrence does the CIP is it goes for 5 years. So the item that we are looking to create will start in 2022 and continue on for a total of 5 years. So when we talk about the current CIP and sort of the starting place for today's discussion, we're really looking at what has already been approved by the City Commission in the 2021-2025 CIP. Again, I think we were able to get this posted on the website, so it is included on the agenda, some of the detail on this. I've also just kind of pulled out some of this for ease of our discussion in the intro. But if you look at just the items that are listed for Parks and Rec, that are sort of those generally new build items, it totals $1.95 million in 2021. That includes the Lawrence Loop Trail, a sports complex and golf irrigation upgrades, the Burroughs Creek Spray Park, and the 27th Street extension. So if we do some simple math and we look at just what's already been approved in 2021, it's about $60 million of items from the entire city, and 1.95 million ends up to be about 3.2% of that. So it helps to really give a context. This is just a portion of, really the CIP is the city's capital improvement plan. So Parks and Rec items are one portion of that. So best practices in the development of a CIP, the ideal really would be a capital improvement program, which is something I think the city has been working its way toward. That would be where you assess your current assets, and each of those assets has a repair or replacement schedule that you can then budget for and kind of have an anticipated plan for when that's going to happen. And also, most importantly, you have funding that matches that anticipated schedule. So I think this is something that the city has really been working to put a lot of time and effort into reaching this. And I think you'll continue to see adjustments and upgrades to how the Parks and Rec Department and how the city puts together the capital improvement plan. And I want to give just a brief kind of an explanation, which sometimes discussions of capital improvement plans can be a little dry. I think it helps to put it in context. So,
Penny, can I want to make a comment here.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure we understand the difference between a capital improvements plan and a capital improvements budget. So these items may be planned, but I don't know if they're actually in the budget.
So the simple way to look at that in Lawrence is we budget for the first year. So when items are approved, so for example, if we're looking at what's already been approved, all of these items have funding attached to them. If we go out to future years, if we're looking at 2026, at this point, there is not funding sources attached to that. So it's a plan based on what we know that seems the appropriate prioritized items, that seems the appropriate year that we accomplish those items. But at this point, we don't have, okay, well, that will be paid for by sales tax. That will come out of general revenues. John O'Banian is correct that for purposes of this discussion, it is helpful to know that the first year that we're looking at, the first year, although the entire plan will be approved, the 5-year plan, the first year will actually have the resources tied to it to make sure that staff can carry that out. So if I jump back to this thought real quick. So again, this is clearly a regular house, perhaps not in Lawrence, or at least not yet, but it was non-copywritten or trademarked clip art. That's what you can get for this presentation. But so this great example is, picture you just built a new house and there's almost no maintenance. It still has that lovely new house smell. All the walls are immaculate. There's been no children or dogs to disrupt the flooring or the windows or the doors. This is in essence what it looks like when you build a new project. And then you get to about year 10 after you've built, in this example, the house, and you get those smaller repairs. Maybe you're replacing your air conditioning unit. Maybe the refrigerator and the stove aren't working well and you need to replace the appliances. By year 25, you're looking at some larger, more expensive repairs. Maybe you're looking to repair the roof, replace windows and doors, maybe look at some driveway repairs. And by year 50, you're looking at some possibly pretty substantial repairs for the house. So foundation repairs, electrical upgrade, those types of things. So it seems obvious, but it helps to remember that the minute you build something, it begins to age. So it's really helpful as we're looking for, how do we walk into this process of determining where those investments need to be made, to keep in mind part of that is building new, and part of that is maintaining what we already have. And that's the same thing with our house. So when you bought the house 50 years ago, did you have a plan for maintenance? Those are the same things that as staff, we look back and ask some of these questions. We also balance between that maintenance needed to keep that item and additions. Let's say you bought the house at age 25 and it's 50 years later, you're now 75. Perhaps you realize it's time you need to expand the garage, you need to build new. So balancing those foundation cracks versus that garage that would really make your life easier. That's just kind of a general example of the balance that we're trying to strive for. And as items, as assets age, some of the key questions, is the house still meeting your needs? Are the things that were built 50 years ago still effective? Do they still work? And also looking at, whether it's personally or whether you're dealing with taxpayer dollars, when is it most cost effective to build something new, or to acknowledge that perhaps what was built 50 years ago isn't quite meeting the need. So hopefully a simple example, but to give a little context to the discussion. So staff is currently just in the beginning stages of starting to draft the CIP. We start looking at the already approved CIP. You'll recall that is a 5-year plan that was approved. So that's really the basis of where we begin looking at this. As we talked about our new house and its aging, it's the same for all the assets in Parks and Recreation. So there's considerations for safety. Can we get matching funds? What are some ADA items that need to be addressed? And where have we received complaints on items that maybe aren't meeting community expectations? And
excuse me, Penny.
Absolutely.
Hey, this is Brendan Downey, Advisory Board. I am having to step out of the meeting. Sorry about this, everyone. I promise next month I'll be there for the entirety of the meeting. But thanks for introducing me to you all, and I look forward to being here next month.
Thank you, Brendan. So we will make sure that we get this information to Brendan. The good news is it's also being recorded. So we will make sure he has all the information that all the members of the advisory board have. Going back to how staff begins this process, we really look at our resources. So I think many of you are aware of and have been involved with the city's new strategic plan. The plan has been approved by the City Commission. Now it's really being looked at and assessed to see where the next steps are to make that plan more actionable. So I think we will all be seeing more work and guidance from that strategic plan. The city has been working to develop CIP scoring criteria. So that's certainly items that we consider. We look at what had been in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We look at asset management assessments. This could be on playground quality and other things. We take into account citizen requests and complaints, and we look at emerging items. What items are people using less of, and what are some items that we're really seeing around the country in Parks and Rec are becoming more popular. So again, this is fairly early on. Staff is really in the exploratory stage of looking at the capital improvement plan. But we think it's really helpful to bring the members of the advisory board on early as we have these discussions, because that is one of the roles of the advisory board, is to provide, based on your expertise. I think it was great. Everyone was able to give that reminder introduction of all the expertise and knowledge that is brought to staff by board members, and present your feedback. And then also you hear from members of the community. So have the opportunity to speak from what you've heard and what your experience is. So again, a reminder, disclaimer, that the city manager is ultimately responsible for the budget development. So if there are items that arise in this discussion that aren't on the already approved CIP, this is really for discussion purposes at this point, and they have not yet been recommended by the city manager for consideration. There's also public engagement that happens throughout the whole budget process. So this is, again, fairly early on. And most importantly, it really is up to the city commission to make budget decisions. So from that aspect, both staff and the advisory board have a helpful role in working on those recommendations to the city commission, but ultimately they represent the community, they're the decision makers. So if anyone has any questions on that process, we can cover them now, or we can touch base on them one-on-one if necessary. With that introduction, as staff has started this process, we do have key questions and considerations. I'd like to turn it over to Mark Hecker to walk us through that. But I also want to give advisory board members the opportunity, if you have any questions based on kind of this introductory presentation you think that we need to cover before we move along.
Penny, this is John Blazek, board member. I responded to the email, and the only reason I want to explain right now in a matter of a minute or two, being on this committee 3 years, and I watched the first CIP plan 3 years ago, and I was absolutely floored and impressed with how well our employees do, because I watched it from the start to the finish. And I watched Mark Hecker diagram, explain, and I'm coming out of the school business to where you got to know where every penny is. And I was just floored. And after 3 years, when I read the email to where we had someone wanting, or a board member wanting information, and we're talking 22 to 26, I think we've got to be fair, because I also know how much you guys ask for input from your employees. And by what I read, I think we're way off, we're a long ways down the road. And I don't know if you've had time to get much input from your employees. So when I read preliminary stages, and we're not at the stage where we would have a draft submitted to the city manager, and I know we haven't had input, that's why I was concerned. Are we starting awful early for all this? We're going to start to question. So I didn't mean to come across direct, but I wanted to let people know I've watched this for 3 years, and our people do a great job if we give them time on this CIP from a recreational standpoint. That's all I need to say.
Penny, could you stop sharing your screen so I can share mine?
Absolutely.
All right, is that where everyone can see it? Is it big enough? So what this is just a summary sheet. So each one of these projects has a full detail sheet that has pictures and cost analysis and operational impacts. We use this just to discuss things with staff, so the 2021, these are all the projects that were approved for 2021. These are all the funding sources that were indicated by the finance and city management staff. So in addition to some of the CIP items, you also have what are term maintenance items. So that's, playground replacements, parking lots. Then we also have 3 pieces of equipment we're replacing. So I want to spend more time on the future years than the 21 years, but are there any questions on what's happening in 21?
Yes, I do. So these projects have been approved by the city council?
Correct. So we'll
Okay.
move forward with them and then bring them back to the city commission as we bid them.
What does HPC stand for?
Good question. Thank you. The recreation center renovation are for the indoor aquatic center and the Holcomb Park Center. So we're basically doing smaller projects that add up to a bigger sum. So carpet replacement, painting, just kind of more, we have some ADA improvements at Holcomb that need to be done. So we've been trying to rotate this every couple of years to different buildings. So we did some of the community building, we did some of East Lawrence Center. So we're just trying to move it around.
Val Renault, board member. The 27th Street extension, which some of us think of as the ruination of the Mutt Run. Sorry to be extreme, but so that's already funded. Is that just the study?
No,
or is okay.
So to get to where we are today, it had to be approved by a CIP. So what will happen with that particular project, the MSO will be bringing forward, in fact, tomorrow night, to hire a consultant for that project. So
Okay, so
again,
that does, oh, go ahead.
again, every step of this goes to the city commission. So if something changes or we change priority, then, you know, the project could disappear or move forward. So these are all just projects we can start on and start moving through process.
Okay.
This is John Nalbandian, question on the spray park, which I love that that we're going to do that. Have we sought private sponsorship for that?
Mark Hecker, no, we have not done that. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I think that'd be really cool, especially since it's on the east side of town. I mean, the hospital might be very interesting since everything they're doing is on the west side of town. This might be something that they would be interested in helping with.
Mark Hecker, Parks and Rec, I think that's a good idea. We can sure consider that and see if we can leverage a little bit of additional money or something. This one's kind of a unique one. So it's the MSO department's working on a raw water feed from the Clinton Lake dam. So what this does is convert our irrigation from city water to raw water. This portion of it is just for our pumping station at the golf course and then also the YSC complex. If done, we would be conserving, you know, city water that hadn't been treated. So we'd use raw water straight out of the lake. These are some higher dollar equipment replacements. Boom mowers, one that has the arm that reaches out over the ditches. The chipper, we're going to try to get a grapple truck, which picks up the waste from forestry. And then the roll-off truck is used to transport mowers and skid loaders. So that's our total CIP for a year. So pretty good, I think. As we go to 22 through 25, so all of these have been vetted once. In other words, they've all been scored against the city CIP scoring system, and they've made the cut to this point. Now, none of these have been funded yet. So as John Nalbandian mentioned, these are projects that are out there and have been fit into a funding program, but each year is reevaluated. So in this, we continue to roll maintenance items. So we're trying to replace a couple playgrounds a year. We have 39 playgrounds. So if we just keep up with that, yeah, I think we can, you know, eventually get to where we're in pretty good shape. Parking lots and roads were in our master plan identified as a fairly major concern. We have almost 100 parking lots in our system. So this is something we're just going to keep hitting year after year. Youth sports complex, adding ADA sidewalks out there. If you're frequent of the youth sports complex, you'll know there's a lot of fields. Some of them don't have good access from parking. So that starts to work with that. Outdoor Aquatic Center, replacing pool slides, Lawrence Loop. This is another section of the loop. So this is Peterson Road to the hospital. This is currently in design phase. So the hope is the design comes forward, then the funding gets allocated. So it's kind of weird on some of these bigger projects. We almost have to start before we actually know the funding is going to be available. There's been a grant applied for that project. So hopefully the grant comes through, everything comes together in 2022. Eisenhower Road is the park behind the police station. So that begins development of a master plan there. Broken Arrow is one of our more popular shelter and park locations. This looks at ADA improvements of both the restroom and the shelter. Any questions on 22? My goal is to not change these since they've been vetted once and scored once. So we may want to add a thing or two, but I'd like to, if possible, unless things are way out of whack, not pull things off. So that's kind of it's a little bit of a funding game we play, is that, you know, once they've seen it, once they've approved it once, we want to continue to stick with basically the same list. The ones where we'll want to add is probably in 22, if there's something that's missing, and I'll show you some things at the bottom. 23 does a couple of the same things. So these are kind of maintenance items. This starts to look at a cemetery shop. This has been a master plan item. So in other words, we have shops at both Oak Hill and Memorial Park. This would consolidate them. Community building, we've talked about major enhancements to the front end of the community building to bring it, either one, bring an elevator to the front or take the entrance to the back. So that's that. Carnegie building, we're starting to look at renovation of some of the older part of the building. That's a 1902 building. So there's multiple things that can be put into that $100,000. outdoor aquatic center. So you see a couple things with the outdoor aquatic center. We're going to have to make a decision. Either we're going to have to keep maintaining or we're going to have to replace. So we've kind of got both in here, and that conversation will eventually come up where we're going to keep, replacing the heater, we're going to replace the driveway, we're going to do that kind of stuff on a residential scale. But it gets big if we keep pumping money into it. This one is another splash pad. So this one converts the South Park wading pool to a splash pad. We feel like this will give us better longevity on use, in that it could open, roughly in April and can stay open until September, where currently our current facility is only operating in the summer months. Pushes another truck in. So those are 23. I'll stop there if there's any quick questions on 23.
Amber Nickel, board member, just out of curiosity, why do you got to get rid of the diving boards?
That actually, I don't know if I mentioned, we actually had a staff group, so all the supervisors for all divisions, all the managers. That was actually a comment from our aquatic staff also, that they may not want to do that. The thought was we'd put another plunge slide or something in place of the diving board, but they indicated they may want to keep the diving boards. So that's one we'll probably discuss a little more before we submit this. '24, again, we're sticking with the same top two. This one we start looking at, again, these are in our master plan. So renovation of Lions Park. Clinton Lake Softball Complex also has a renovation component. This is the interior of the complex. So it's concrete, it's the infields, it's fencing, it's a lot of different things. And when we're starting to get, 4 or 5 years out, a lot of the details aren't known of this, but we know we aren't getting better every year. So we want to allocate money to bring that thing back up to where it should be. Sports pavilion, adding additional baffling in the ceiling for the sound acoustics out there. This is something we've been working on a little bit by little bit, but if we don't get done by '24, we'd like to go ahead and finish it. We know the turf in the sports pavilion should be aged out by 2024. That's the life cycle of it. So this one, we're planning a life cycle replacement. Currently, it's fine. So we want to look at, we think it'll be done by then. Tennis and basketball court replacement. We have a number of courts, and you'll see when I go down to the bottom, we're probably gonna have to move some of this money up to 22 because we have 4 or 5 courts right now that aren't in good shape. So we need to look at that. Youth sports complex, adding more asphalt. This one is one we know we're gonna have to add. So this is, again, a programmed replacement. We did all of the cardio and fitness equipment at Sports Pavilion and the other facilities in 2019. We're getting about 5 years out of those. So by '24, we're going to have to come back and do those again. Questions on 24?
Mark, what happens with the replaced cardio and fitness equipment?
So basically on those, especially at the Sports Pavilion, we get such a high use. Those things are basically done by the time we get to that 5-year mark. In fact, we'll usually start dropping a few of them in the 4th year. So most of them are just ready to be traded in. We'll get a trade-in value for those. Quite often,
trade-in.
A lot of money, but we do get a certain trade-in allotment for those.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that maybe some residents might value some of that stuff.
Yeah, when we replace them, they're pretty well ready to be replaced. We have boards going bad or belts going bad, or a lot of the electronics will be going bad by that 4th year. When we get to the 5th, it's usually getting to the point where we need to make a pretty major investment.
This is Marilyn Hull. I have another question, Mark. Given that the Lawrence Loop has been a big citizen priority, why have you not budgeted for any sections of it in some of these out years?
Mark Eckert, Parks and Rec. Actually, Marilyn, some of those were proposed for '23 and '24, and they weren't funded. So especially like the Queens Road to Castle. So it's that northwest section. We had those in 23 and 24 and they weren't funded. So these are only things that were allocated funding. So if we want to pull those back up, we could do that. The project's already written and we could resubmit it into the Derby and see if the funding holds this time. But yeah, I think that's a valid point. You know, look at things that maybe got dropped out and do we want to pull them back up and try it again?
All right, thank you.
Jackie Becker, quick question or longer explanation, especially for some of our new members. So I saw obviously in the first year it's 3 million, and then when you look down to 2024, it's 2.1 million. Are you doing that to make sure you've got a little leeway for stuff, or were you asked to actually lower our budget and percentages for that in the future?
Mark Ecker, Parks and Rec. So what happens on this is usually we'll submit a number of projects much higher than the 2 million or 3 million. And then as finance walks through it, city manager walks through it, it's basically a puzzle for them trying to fit things in with other needs in the city. So what we request is not always what we end up with in the CIP. So, you know, have we moved these numbers down? No, not necessarily. We'll propose probably more than there'll be money for, but we always want to submit things that we feel need to be done so that at least the concern is raised. And then, you know, as they do the funding mix, if you look at that other CIP list, you can kind of see, you know, the total for each year kind of evens out at the bottom at $60 million. But this year they may buy a fire truck versus a spray park, you know, so that's the kind of judgments that city commission's making.
Thank you.
Mark Ecker, Parks and Rec. Back to 2025, same thing on top two items. We do another spray park, so this would be a total of 3 if we got funding for all these. Youth Sports Complex, we did some lighting improvements in 2017. We would propose to move the rest of those to LED lighting for energy efficiency. Land acquisition, we need to start thinking about the future as when does our park system want to start growing? When does the city jump outside of the highway? We want to be out in front of that with park acquisition so that we're not paying premium dollars for parkland. This year also hits some major facility renovations. So these were all in our master plan. So we've placed these what was in the out year. So, you know, renovation of East Lawrence Center, Holcomb Center, Prairie Park Nature Center, the Indoor Aquatic Center, and replacing the outdoor pool. So it's a little contradictory that we were up in the top there fixing up the outdoor pool, and then we're down here, we're talking about replacing it. Good news is it made it into the CIP. I think a decision will have to be made in the next year or two as which way we're going to go with that. Are we going to keep plugging money into the existing facility or replace it with something more modern? So, questions on 25?
This is Pat Phillips, board member. Mark, regarding those renovations, I mean, they're very high amounts. Is there ways to stagnate that in different years so it's not all in one year?
Mark Ecker, Parks and Rec, yes. Sometimes we get economy of scale by doing everything at once. So we hire an architect, that, kind of like the school district did. They'll do multiple improvements in multiple buildings. Yes, they could be spread out to different years. You know, the Indoor Aquatic Center, for example, is one we've talked about adding event space out there so that we're more capable of handling some of those big events. That one's been there. The Prairie Park Nature Center, we've talked about a classroom for years and years. Yeah, you know, would it be better to spread them out? Maybe, or it might be better to hire one architect to renovate a little bit of everything throughout the system so that everybody feels like they got something in their neighborhood area. So, you know, that's a great conversation point, though. Mark Ecker, Parks and Rec. Again, as we get to 26, so these are just items staff threw up against the wall. We haven't written most of these as CIP projects, but we're sticking with the first couple again. Maintenance staff brought up the fact that a lot of our park restrooms were built in the 80s, so a lot of those metal restrooms. So we're pushing 40 plus years on some of those, and they just frankly need to be replaced. Pickleball has been a growing emphasis. Let's go with that. there's a lot of people playing pickleball, and we have more tennis courts than pickleball courts outdoors. So maybe we start resurfacing courts and thinking about a pickleball complex. I don't know. That's certainly something a lot of cities are doing, is they'll put a dedicated, here's 6 courts together with lights, just like a tennis complex. Water Tower Park is one that wasn't on our radar, but as that water tower moves from where it currently is to what we think is probably the center of the park, after that's done, we're going to want to reconstruct that park, new playgrounds, basically get it back to a level or better than it is currently. DeVictor Park, we have 2 sections of that trail over there that we've put off and put off and put off. It's ag land now in one section hasn't been built, that we've acquired right away quite a few years ago. So looking at trying to maybe finish a couple sections over there. Pickleball complex we talked about. This one is one that's a little bit self-serving, but is also identified as a strategic item for the city commission, is connectivity. We have a shop facility that doesn't have very good computer capability right now, and they're trying to run GIS mapping and sort of things, and they just quite frankly can't run it. So this brings high-speed fiber to that shop facility. All of our other buildings and shop facilities have fiber, so we can run about any program. Eagle Bend Golf Course, we're looking at drainage improvements, and also one of the bigger drainage issues out there is the driving range. If you haven't been out there after a big rain, it's basically a swamp out in the driving range. So that keeps us shut down until that thing dries out. Otherwise, all the golf balls just kind of disappear in the mud. So that's one for an improvement. Oak Hill Cemetery, we just had a meeting today to talk about this. So as that got moved to a historic property and recognized on National Register, we feel like there's maybe some potential to move towards improving some of the older sections that aren't active, to bring them up to the standards that would be acceptable for a historic property. So that's a new project as of about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Hort Division shop move. So this one, MSO's building, proposing to build a complex out by Venture Park. As part of that, the horticulture division is supposed to move also. So that allocates money for those. These 2 are big CIP project or master plan projects. Large shelter facility, we don't have that in our system. That's one that would seat 200 to 500 people, air conditioned, heated. If you've been to some bigger park departments, a lot of those have these facilities that will handle the big wedding reception or a big family gathering. That's a rental facility. Would produce a pretty significant revenue along with the maintenance cost of it. Youth Sports Complex, we're looking at improving that, the quality of that complex. So most complexes nowadays have artificial turf. They have just a variety of improvements over what we have with the gravel parking lots and the grass areas for fields. So this was identified as a fairly major CIP item. So those are not proposed yet. These are just kind of staff brought up in a conversation. So I would be interested in your thoughts or other things that we've missed.
Mark, this is John Nalbandian. On the park improvements about the water tower construction, speaking now politically, the sooner that those park improvements are made, the better it's going to be for Parks and Rec and for the city. I mean, the argument, one of the arguments is that yeah, we'll be able to do some nice Parks and Rec stuff with the water tower and so on and so forth, but just really emphasizing that would do a lot to sort of help people understand that when we say that the park is going to be improved, yeah, they're going to see it. They're going to see it very soon.
Mark Ecker, Parks and Rec, I agree with you. And I think as they're talking about construction wrapping up on that water tower move in 2022. So that's why I kind of think that we propose this.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So that would be my thought on that.
Yeah, sooner the better.
John, Derek Rogers, Director of Parks and Recreation. one of the things that, as we change things, the park will change with the water towers. We really want to do is engage the neighborhood and the users and remaster plan that space, get the input from the sororities up there along with the neighbors, and try to get what they want instead of us saying, hey, we're going to put a playground here, and then go, well, that was silly, we didn't want that. So more to follow on that one, but I'm hoping in sometime after February when the KU kids get back, and hopefully we can start rolling on a public engagement.
Jackie Becker, question. With the success we've had out at Woody Park, I know I haven't seen any budget for anything with Woody. Would we be looking into potentially trying to find a way to put some monies there to help for our displaced community in Lawrence, Kansas?
I'm Derek Rogers, Director of Parks and Recreation. The city, and along with the county and the nonprofits, continue to look at opportunities for affordable housing around Lawrence and to address the unsheltered. At the current time, I think we're just a little too early into that process. I think at some point that may be a possibility, but right now that's we're way too early for that, I believe. But great question.
This is Marilyn Hull, board member. I just wanted to ask about a couple things. One, where's the city on the idea of opening up recreational access to the Kansas River? Does that even come under Parks and Recreation, or is that some other group? My second question is, has any thought been given to doing an outdoor pavilion that is covered that could be used for the farmers market and other citywide events and activities?
Mark Ecker, Parks and Rec. Both of those projects are written as a CIP. We haven't moved them up. So these are projects that have been parked down lower on our list. So there's a farmer market one, and then the Kansas River Walk is here. So again, it's just which ones do we want to try to pull up and push. Yeah, there's a lot of master plan items down here. There's ones that were proposed and unfunded. So there's our two, the Queens Road projects.
I was going to say something too. Okay. And Derek Rogers, Director of Parks and Recreation. Marilyn, this is a fantastic question. And as the city continues to grow and the downtown changes, yes, I would love to see more opportunities for recreation down on the river. There's opportunities to work with the Kansas Department of Parks and Wildlife. It's kind of envisioning that downtown isn't just Massachusetts Street. It's actually flowing clear between Mass to Delaware Street. And I think as we go towards the Santa Fe Depot, both below and above the dam, we need to keep our eyes open on that. And I've been engaged in discussions with other groups that have an interest. I haven't had time to follow up on, how do we get kayak docks and unloading and loading stations down there and I truly want to see that developed and that recreational opportunities become part of Lawrence within the next 5 years.
This is John Blazik. Derek, this is going to be directed to you. I had a question I've been asked and I couldn't answer. And it was kind of interesting. I'm not sure how the recreation people or staff or et cetera got assigned with the homeless and Camp Woody and et cetera. But my question is this: with the money that was spent on that and now in the hotels and the damage that we're reading, will that money eventually come out of your recreational CIP since you guys are doing the legwork on it?
Derek Rogers, Director of Parks and Recreation. I will say this. The city staff did a phenomenal job, and I'll give credit to Brandon McGuire from the city manager's office and Penny Holler from our department to within a week coming up with an RFP, getting hotels to bid on it, and putting together an agreement with the hotels and MOU with volunteers to get a program up and running in such a short time is phenomenal. To manage a program where it's new to our staff, so they did the legwork, and then I have staff that are working on the day-to-day project management. And the volunteers have run in the churches in a congregate setting. They know how to manage that very well. This is a non-congregate setting, which provides a lot of new challenges. The demand to use that space went from, I believe, about 38 the first day, and it increased just about every day until it got up to about 107 or 109 people. So we had a contract with one hotel, and we had the overflow to another hotel. As we go forward, what we're trying to do is focus on our efficiencies and reducing costs, reducing damages, reducing the fees associated with room cleanings and linens and whatnot, smoking fees. And I think we're starting to turn the corner on that. We are maximizing the space of what we have available. At the end of the day, it is general fund, it's city funds, but also it's not coming out of our budget, but as good stewards of city finances, we're doing everything we can to reduce the amount of those funds going to damages that could be going to room rates to support those in need of a winter shelter.
Penny Holler, management analyst. I'd also like to echo what Derek said and just speak from a budgetary standpoint is, if you recall, we have actually 3 sheltering programs going on. So there is Camp Woody, there is the longer term shelter, longer term 3-month sheltering program we're working on in partnership with the Lawrence Community Shelter. And then there is the third, which is truly just the overnight winter shelter program. Those first 2 programs, the city has grant funds to run. So Camp Woody, initially we had CARES Act funds. And as those funds have ended, the city was able to obtain federal and state ESG funds. Those same funds also allowed us to do that second program in coordination with the Lawrence Community Shelter. So over half of the dollars spent on this are actually coming from outside grant funds.
Thank you, Penny. And this is John Blazek again. Yeah, I knew that. And, you know, funds, we're all smart enough to know they'll eventually run out. That's why when Derek said it comes back to the general fund, and I didn't know if it was going to trickle back to your CIP numbers in here. So, because they aren't going to get smaller. I mean, well, we know that, and everybody knows that. So I was just curious if the funding is going to eventually affect your recreational budget.
Derek Rogers, Director of Parks Recreation. As far as I know, it will not, but that's really a CMO question for, what's the impact of programs on budgets and the finance directors.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, this is Bart Littlejohn, Chair. Mark, I was just curious about where are you on your presentation, because we still have a person who wants to give comment, and I want to make sure that we don't leave them out.
Mark Ecker, Parks and Rec. I'm done presenting unless the board members have more questions or concerns.
All righty. Does anybody else have any concerns or questions for Mark?
Penny Holler, management analyst. It also wouldn't preclude the board from continuing on the discussion after that public comment on this agenda item. So you can choose after public comment to then revisit or end the session.
Yes, exactly what Penny said. I'm not hearing anything, so I'll go ahead and give the floor to Chris. Chris, as Penny said before, you have 3 minutes for public comment, and whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and proceed.
Great, thanks, Bart. Thanks to the chair. Thanks to the advisory board for giving me the opportunity to speak. I will make this quick. There's just 3 points I want to comment on. One, and these are all related to trails. I wear a lot of hats, but I'm really speaking for myself. One, I want to commend the staff for the $150,000 that already is budgeted for planning of the Lawrence Loop. I don't think we often have included planning funding in a proactive way. So that was a great thing that we did last year and had that approved. My understanding from comments made at the Multimodal Transportation Commission, I think in December, is that those that planning fund will be used both for the Peterson to hospital section that Mark alluded to that's in the 2022 CIP, as well as the section that will extend Burris Creek Trail all the way to Constant Park. Mark did mention, so that's first point. Second point that Mark mentioned, the 1.6 million in 2022. Actually 600,000 of that was from general obligation debt projects. Another roughly million is proposed from a KDOT grant. That grant has been submitted, and I think we will know from the Kansas Department of Transportation by January if that is funded or not, which would then allow us to build that section from Peterson to the hospital. If not, we do have 600,000 in general obligation debt that was proposed for use for that Peterson to hospital project. I would love for Parks and Rec, if that grant does not come through, to propose to the city that we consider using that money for essentially the section from, we're going to do some work this coming year, and we'll then have the trail to about 7th and Delaware. I think that 600,000 would be adequate to take the trail all the way to the Santa Fe Depot. We should have the planning work done if it's used in this year's budget. That's just really a critical section to connect the east part of the city to downtown. It's consistent with the downtown master plan, Parks and Recreation master plan, our strategic plan. I think our entire loop mileage system is based on ground zero being at the Santa Fe Depot, which isn't yet connected to the trail system. So, the timing would work because I think we'll know in January if we receive that grant. If we don't, I think there's then a question about could we use that 600,000 in local funds for other sections of trail. And I know I'm almost out of time, so I guess my third point would be I do very much support what Marilyn said about taking some of those unfunded projects, moving those back into the CIP in out years. I think it's really important for grant agencies to see the commitment of the local agency to do this work as we are seeking grant funds. And so I think that's really important as well. Thank you for the time. And thanks to Parks and Rec for the great work that they do, both in budgeting and implementing it as they carry out their work. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate that. All right. Since our next agenda item is board items of interest, and we're pretty much to the end of this, does anybody else have any comment on what Chris said? So I'll just go ahead and open it up now.
Yes, I have a question. John Nalbandian, I had a question regarding the continuing education, the fitness centers and so on and so forth. I had a resident let me know that they got two different emails, one regarding lifelong classes and the other regular classes, and they're very different, different durations of classes, different stop time, so on and so forth. And the question is, why weren't those coordinated? Should they have been coordinated? Why didn't people in the lifelong classes get access or information about the regular classes? So what was all that about?
So John, John, that's a board item of interest, but first let me go ahead and make sure that no one had any questions of Chris.
I'm
Did
sorry.
No, no, that's okay. Did anyone have any questions of Chris of what he just said?
This is Marilyn Hull, board member. I don't have questions, but I concur with his suggestion that allocated matching funds, if the grant that's currently in front of KDOT is not funded, I concur that it would be good to use that $600,000 or so to complete 7th to 8th Street extension of the Burrows Creek Trail.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn. Do we have anybody else with any further comment? Okay. I'm not seeing any. Chris just sent everyone a link. So thank you for doing that, Chris. But I believe that if we have any sort of information, we can go ahead and reach out to him as well. So thank you for attending, Chris, and giving us public comment on that. That's definitely a tool that I'm not sure if all of us we're aware of. And we truly appreciate that. So.
Thank you.
All right. To go ahead and thank you for the supplemental information. To go ahead and move us on, item E, concerns of the board, members, items of interest. John, I'm sorry I cut you off on that, and I believe your question was in regards to the fitness center. So I probably think that Lee Ice would probably be the one to go ahead and answer that. Am I right?
Well, my concern goes beyond the fitness center.
Okay, okay.
I mean, it has to do with the notice of classes that are going to be available for the lifelong fitness versus just the regular classes. It's very different emails, very different communication.
Okay.
Rancho Analyst, I believe Lee Ice can answer that question.
Yeah, I'll give that a shot, John, and I appreciate the question. This actually started back Thanksgiving, Christmas, when we as the department decided to not have any programs in January because we just didn't know what the pandemic was going to look like coming out of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So we asked staff just to be put on hold and to really start focusing on February as a start time. And so what we typically do is they were asked to look at spring break, which is March 6th, and work backwards. And so the February 1 would have been approximately 4 to 6 weeks of an opportunity to do some programming. We didn't know what that was going to look like. And so Derek called a meeting on January 4th once everybody got back with all of the recreation staff, which we had about 2/3 there on that Monday, coming back out of the New Year's. And so some of them were really biting at the bit because they've been hearing from the public, we need to open, we need to open, we need to start programming, there's a lot of things that we might be able to do. And so the direction that was given at that point in time was, okay, what can you do with allocation of maybe 2 weeks of registration, get to maybe the 15th, 18th of January, have something for 1 or 2 weeks, and then start another class or another part section that would run from February 1 to approximately spring break, and then start it all over again. Because what we didn't want is 10 to 12 weeks of classes, and then for us to get to the 1st of February, we go back in red or orange, and we got to cancel again and refund all the registration. We did have a staff person that kind of jumped the gun on us a little bit to really try to program too much, which, everybody wants to do more. And in this particular case, we wanted to actually do less and maybe look at 25% of what they were capable of doing and really kind of scale things down and not throw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall and then hope something sticks. So that was our fault in in making sure that they understood coming out of that January 4th meeting, because we really weren't going to make any decisions till Friday of last week in terms of how we're going to open this up. Gail did a tremendous job with the lifelong and communicating to her seniors in that group. Unfortunately, we opened up too much of the classes, but they were still within the time frame that we were looking to do, is that February 1 to March 6th. I think some of them may have looked like they were going longer than that, but they weren't. They were starting somewhere around that first week of February and then concluding approximately, I think it was the 6th or the 8th of March. So it was about a 4 to 6 week program. But the rollout, I mean, we don't have the activity guide. It was kind of, we're trying to get something out there. And really it was those two, the lifelong and then the overall classes, because we're still trying to do sports. We're still trying to do a few other things. But it's difficult when you don't have the activity guide. We're not doing the same things that we've always done. We came out of the Unified Command last week at a 9% positivity rate. I mean, we were at 5, then we went to 7, now we're over 9. Baldwin had 19.1% positivity rate a week ago. So we don't even know what's going to happen this Thursday. If we get back to orange or red, we may be shutting down again. So we don't really know. But rec staff has to have the opportunity and the time to plan. And typically it's about a 2-week registration. They have to get instructors lined up. What can they do? What are they available to do? When are they available to do it? And then we have to piece all this together and stay within the guidelines of the health department of 100 people in a building or less. Sports pavilion is a little bit more at 250, but when you're talking classes and practices and people on the track, how do we keep that under 250? So everybody's going to have to work together on these things. So again, it's kind of a work in progress. We have dialed her back a little bit on the classes, the overall classes. But again, it wasn't perfect, and I think it was just misinterpreted, or it wasn't handled very well, and that was our fault.
Well, Lee, the lifetime classes are only for 2 weeks, and then the regular classes go much longer than that. What happened there?
Well, the lifelong classes, I mean, that was something that Gail wanted to do from the 15th of January to the 1st of February, and then she could do more after that. There was another 4 to 6 weeks after that. And
yeah, but she only did 2 weeks.
Well, the January ones, the February, she did 2. Okay, I don't know what she did in February and beyond that, and whether or not she's offering another 4 to 5 week class after that up until spring break. What we didn't want to have was 8 or 9 weeks. And I know on the regular classes, they don't start till early February, and they're done by March 6th. So they're about a 5 or 6 week program. So she could have done, the classes could have opened up January 15th or 18th, Martin Luther King Day or thereafter, and gone 2 weeks, and then start another session the 1st of February.
So these are 2 very different than programming initiatives. The lifetime and then the regular.
Well, they're 2 different populations, yes.
Yeah, I know that, but they're 2 different people who are organizing the different classes, and it looks like they worked independently. And I don't get the logic of the lifetime for 2 weeks and the other classes for 6 weeks or whatever.
I mean, there were some people who were wanting to do it just a week by week. When we shut down originally, they said, well, can we just go week to week and pay every time we come? And we weren't able to accommodate that. And so this was the next best thing that we thought we can do, that if they really truly want to be in that class, and it may resume again on February 1st, we'll do 2 weeks and then another 4 or 5, because we don't know where we're going to be February 1. And so if we could get 2 weeks in, it's better than doing nothing and then having to refund the next 6 weeks.
Then why did you program the regular classes for longer than that?
Well, the regular classes start February 1. They're not starting January 15th. So they're able to offer that beginning February 1st, with the understanding they may not happen because we still
Okay.
have to do registration, and they won't go any longer until spring break. So it's a 4 to 6 week program that even the lifelong can do starting February 1 to spring break.
And that will be a new initiative then for those of us working on the lifelong. Okay.
John, Dirk Rogers, Parks Recreation Director. Gil followed our direction as what I expected and wanted to see. 2 week increments, what can we do on drop-ins? We're trying to just kind of get our toes wet. We've allowed the public in. For equity, some folks need, one-on-one training, say to lift weights or do other things. Knowing that come this next Friday, after we see what happens with the trend with public health, where are we going? Is there a different mandate after the inauguration? We wanted to see what's going on. So we may only be 2 weeks at a time, and we're going to know where the trend's going, I think, by next weekend. So I asked staff to kind of hold back. One of the staff members threw a lot of stuff out there that I think misinterpreted my message and got way beyond what I was wanting. Most of the staff did my 2 weeks. Keep it small. Let's get our feet wet.
I see.
So sorry,
Okay.
but that's on me.
Okay, thanks, Derek.
All right. Does anybody else have any items of interest that's on their mind?
Derek Rogers, Parks Recreation. I do have Roger Steinbrack on, and we can talk a little bit about our donation policy from last week's State Commission.
Sure.
We took it to the City Commission. One of the organizations, Friends of Oak Hill, that we work with, had some concerns about the policy. One of the commissioners about it being a city policy. So we pulled it back. And again, Mark talked about, we met with Friends of Oak Hill today, and I think they're feeling more comfortable with what we had planned, but it is good to have a donation policy for the whole city. We were looking at it from the land donation, but it also covers so much more, like a naming policy, a sponsorship policy. If somebody came to town and said, we're going to donate money to build a memorial to Quantrill in Lawrence, Kansas, we're going to say no, whether there's a policy or no policy. And that's part of what this deals with. On a normal individual or a nonprofit that wants to donate money to the city of Lawrence or Parks and Recreation, we love to have partnerships. There are a few instances where we go, we appreciate the opportunity, but I don't think we're going to accept. But this, I'll pass on to Roger if he's got anything else to add.
I think you covered it quite well.
Okay.
I just going back to the last item, John, Roger Steinbrock, Marketing Supervisor. I've been working on a press release that's going to be going out this evening to talk about the programming that's going to be offered. We've got the website updated on the boxes up on the front page, and you can go there and look at all the stuff that's being offered. And then we'll be adding to that as well as they develop classes. So just to let you know that, like Lee said, we're just doing this in an incremental stages, but I've got it all grouped and I'm finalizing the stuff now to be sent out later tonight.
Cool. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it. I would like to say as well that the CIP discussion is just the first iteration of this. We'll be also continuing it. I believe Penny, we'll be continuing it next month as well, right? Is that correct?
Penny Holler, management analyst. That was the plan.
Yeah.
So really kind of, this meeting is, kind of once the CIP, bring everyone in on the base discussion, and then maybe really kind of delve in a little further in February.
Good deal. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So, But yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there just to let people know that this is not something that we're putting down for this month, that we will be bringing up and discussing it again next month as well. So,
Hey, Derek,
but,
Derek, Art, can I add something in?
yeah, absolutely.
For next month's CIP discussion, I'm curious to know whether the city commission's approved strategic plan provides any direction that might influence choices that Parks and Rec is going to make about what to put forward.
Derek Rogers, Lawrence Parks Recreation. I know we're still working on the strategic plan, and I really wish it had been done by now so we could work on ours and revisions to our master plan. I'm excited about where the strategic plan is going, and I don't know if most of you have followed it or not. But without it approved, I don't know if that's going to have any impact on that. I'm fortunate enough, many people on this call from city staff are involved in different areas of the strategic plan. Roger, Mark, myself, and I think I've got one of the coolest, and of course everybody probably thinks they do too. Ours is unmistakable identity, and that's on one of the outcomes, which deals a lot with not only Parks and Rec, but our downtown, our uniqueness as a city. So I wish it was done, but I'm not quite sure when the date of completion of the strategic plan is going to be. I know it's a city manager and a CMO priority, and they have put a lot of resources and time into getting to move along. I don't know if anybody else has any other input I might have missed. Porter, I know you're mic'd off, but you're one that's front running on this project also.
Wow, threw Porter under the bus. Nice.
You might have walked away from
Penny Holland Manager Analyst, he's also running another meeting, so
okay.
he's doing dual service this evening. Penny Holland Manager Analyst, though I would add, yeah, many of us are on the committees because really we have the strategic plan, but it's sort of what are the next steps and what does that mean? These are really exciting goals for the city, but where does that leave us? Exactly that, Marilyn. So as we're looking at the CIP, what does that mean? I think we as staff and members of the community are still having those conversations.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone. Do we have any other items of interest that you would like to go ahead and bring up now?
Hey, Bart, this is John Blazik, Advisory Board member. I just like to compliment Mark and those guys on their CIP presentation. Kind of remind me of 3 years ago of how detailed you guys look at every penny. Thank you. That was cool information again, Mark.
All right. Yeah, thank you guys for putting that information together for us, and getting that turnaround and getting that preliminary information out to us so we could go ahead and review it. We really do appreciate it. I'm not really hearing anything else, so what I'll do is move us on to our next item, staff update. I believe there was an attachment there, so does anybody have any comment or anything they want to add about the staff update? I am not seeing anything or hearing anything.
Mark Eckworth, Assistant Director. One thing I'd like to point out on that, some of the work the Nature Center is doing on continuing education things, where they're just basically getting things out to people so that parents can work with their kids on science projects. They're doing a lot of work with videos. So I kind of want to call them out as kind of going over and above and not just sitting and waiting for people to come to the Nature Center. They're shooting stuff out to folks. So just wanted to call that out a little bit.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, those folks need all the attention they can get. We appreciate it.
And you might just look at your Facebook page for Parks and Recreation. Dara from the Nature Center put together a video on owls. So you learn all about owls in this about a 10-minute video. It's a real fun project that she did.
All right. Do we have anything else to add about the staff update? I'm not seeing anything. Okay, folks. I think that'll do it for our meeting. Unless anybody else has anything to add. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Marilyn Hull, board member, I move we adjourn.
Okay. Marilyn Hull with the motion to adjourn. Is there a second out there?
Val Renault, board member, I second.
All right. Val Renault with the second. Any discussion or any questions? Seeing or hearing none. All those in favor, just say aye.
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 Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you guys for hanging in there, and I hope that you guys all have a great week. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.